Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Brooklyn Antiquarian Book Fair 2020 virtual edition. If you want to check out the virtual booths, you can go to brooklynbookfair.com and follow the links. We have over 3,000 objects, books, ephemeral items, photographs, and prints for sale there. And there are over 225 individual booths. It's the largest virtual fair in the world. And we normally do this live in Greenpoint in Brooklyn, where I'm actually broadcasting from right now. This is our keynote webinar of the day, our last one. And I'm super excited and honored to have Michael Horse, aka Deputy Hawk from the cult television show Twin Peaks, as our speaker, and Elliot Forrest, who is the afternoon host at WQXR in New York State, also a WNYC jock as well. And so I just wanted to say a few words about how I came to know a little bit more about Michael as an artist. So I was in the 5th grade when Twin Peaks originally aired in 1990, and I remember after the pilot aired that I had never seen an adult television show actually touch a nerve with 12-year-olds before, but everybody was going around that day after the pilot aired and talking about who killed Laura Palmer. It was almost like being at the water cooler at a business, but we were just little kids, and I was sort of amazed at how incredibly popular the show was. And when The Return came out 25 years later or 26 years later in 2017 on Showtime, I was immediately attracted to the hieroglyphic map that was shown in the series and that Deputy Hawk or Michael Horse was talking about and deciphering for the characters in the show as a way of solving what was happening in the present in the show. And I started asking around on some different Twin Peaks Facebook sites and whatnot about who created the artwork, and nobody really knew who it was. So then one day somebody sent me an email and said, "Did you see this? Michael Horse actually created this piece of ledger art." And I looked at it and I said, "Oh my God, this is like an alternate history of America, or very different than what we were taught in school or what we're taught in books." And so I reached out to him and I said, I love your artwork. I'd love to talk to you more about it. And so, to my surprise, he called me a few days later on the phone and I said, "Do you know who did the map that you were deciphering in The Return?" And he said, "Yeah, I did." And I was like, "Oh my God, this is amazing. And I would love to expound on this and have a conversation with you for the Brooklyn Book Fair." And so I'm very honored that Michael agreed to do this. And I just wanted to say, we're broadcasting live on YouTube, which is where everybody's watching it. But in the right-hand corner, there is a chat box, and that's where you'll leave your questions for Michael, and Elliot will ask them at the end. We'll have a 15, 20-minute Q&A at the end. Before I hand it over to Elliot and he can introduce Michael and start the conversation, I just wanted to say that I actually found this book the other day in Brooklyn, The Dweller on the Threshold, and it reminded me of the great scene where Michael in the original Twin Peaks series talks about the dweller on the threshold. And if you meet the dweller and you have any fear in your heart, your soul will be totally decimated. And hopefully today during our talk, no one's soul will be decimated, but actually enlightened and enhanced. So let me hand it over to Elliot, and everybody enjoy this, what I'm sure is going to be a tremendous talk. Take it away, Elliot.
Thanks so much, Brian. Elliot Forrest here. I'm so thankful to the Brooklyn Antiquarian Book Fair and Brian for inviting me to be here today for a lot of reasons. One is I love television. I love Twin Peaks. Also, I grew up in West Texas, so there was a lot of Native American art around me, and I have some in my home. So it's exciting today to have this conversation with Michael Horse, who joins us now. Michael, thank you so much for agreeing to be here today.
Yeah, can you guys see me okay? Is it working okay?
I think we're good. I think
Oh,
they'll let
okay.
us know if there's an issue. You look handsome as ever.
Oh, God bless you, man. The money's on the way, man.
As people may or may not know, as Brian said, you played Deputy Hawk on Twin Peaks, but you're also an artist, a musician, jewelry maker. You've worked in so many different media. We want to get to that. But first, let's just start with Twin Peaks for the Twin Peaks fans. When did your TV career, when did your acting career start?
Oh, it started in the 80s. That was kind of a, you know, I've been an artist ever since I was, like 19 years old. I kept that separate, Michael Horst, the artist from Michael Horst, the actor, and, about 20 years ago, people realized, oh, this is the same guy. But I did some stunts, I wrangled some horses, but I didn't really want to be in the movies. And I was running my art studio from an agent, and she handled Jack Nance, which is really interesting, But they were doing the bad remake of The Lone Ranger in 1980, and she said, "You want to be Tonto in The Lone Ranger? You're just what they're looking for, And I went, "No, I don't." I said, "I'm an American Indian Movement member." She kept asking me, and I said, "Well, what do you think they'd pay me?" And she said, "Oh, 50 grand." I went, "Kimosabi." Went down there and I talked to the director, Bill Fraker. We ended up being good friends for, until he passed. And I said, you send Tonto to town once and there's going to be more Indians on your lawn than Custer. So bad film. It didn't take me long to realize that it's only going to be as good as it's written. It's got to be on the page,
Right.
But I know, David, I lived in the Santa Monica Mountains, and Russ Tamblyn and Dean Stockwell were my neighbors.
Wow.
Talk about
From
stories.
West Side Story, right?
Yeah, yeah. And Lynch came by to see them one day, and I said, "Who's that guy?" And they showed me the film The Grandma, which I don't know if any of you've seen that, but it makes Eraserhead look like Disney, And then he was doing something for the French Bicentennial with me and Harry Dean Stanton. It was an amazing film, And I said, "What are you going to do next?" He said, "Oh, I'm going to do a TV series." And I went, "For cable?" He said, No, for network TV. And I went, "Yeah, good luck. Call me when that happens." But Twin Peaks changed the way that people process film and television. I'm so proud of it. If I never worked again, just being on Twin Peaks would be enough for me. It's everything that's good out there now has Twin Peaks' DNA all over it.
Right. Sopranos, Breaking Bad, those sorts of things sort of feel like that deal. I've talked to a number of young people. It's funny. There's a whole generation of young people out there who have never uttered the phrase, "When is it on?" It's on when I want it to be on, right? Everything's on demand. But, in those days, Twin Peaks, it was like you had to put everything aside and it was on at a certain time and you had to make that appointment to find out, what was going to happen next. And I think that was part of it, is that the country would rally around at a certain moment to watch a show like this or an event like this. Did you have a sense of it during that time period that you were creating something?
Oh yeah, we
was
knew
groundbreaking?
we knew we were doing something special. It's interesting to me because there's so many young fans of Twin Peaks now, and it's slow, and I mean, all these people, they multitask and get mad at my kids sometimes. I go, "You're not watching this." Go, "Yeah, I am." But no, you're not getting the nuances of all of this. But you can't multitask and watch Twin Peaks. You got to put your phone down. You can't be on your computer. So this isn't a first time experience for a lot of younger people to really get lost in that experience of Twin Peaks. The fans, I love the fans so much. They're so respectful, and I tell people it's not about fame. It's a bit, it's about being in David's world.
Right. And there's something about that world, the landscape. There was a personality to the landscape. Was there a connection to Native Americans in your mind, between sort of the themes of the film and not just your character, but the whole show?
Of course, yeah. Just a lot of times a location becomes a character, just like Monument Valley for John Ford and Whale Rider, and I have a lot of friends that are up in the northern area up there, and there's legends of spirits that live in, and then to us, all living things have an entity to it. So yeah.
And the map itself, how did it come about that you would actually make the map?
Well, David asked me would I do the map, and I went, oh yeah, sure. And he said, how much do you want? And I went, oh no, it's this is a gift, you know. And one of the producers said, you know, this map's probably worth about 10 grand. And I said, I don't have any of your work. And he sent me a really nice print from his show in Paris, you know, signed to me, which is one of my great treasures, you know. But no, it was a joy to do. You know, he just gave me a few things he wanted to see in it, and the rest I just put in there myself. You know, ledger art is so interesting. It's like Brian was saying, it's our history from our point of view. You know, we used to paint on hides. That was our history book, our calendar. We could roll it up, take it with us. Then on the reservation, the animals are gone, and we started painting on any piece of scrap paper that we could find, mostly on the ledger books that took records of the things that were brought to the settlements and forts, but old Bibles, love letters, you know.
I want to talk a little bit more about the ledger art, and I think we're seeing it. I don't think you and I could, but I think the audience is seeing some of the work as we go along. Oh, here we are. Yeah, there we go. Let's take a look at this. This is the map itself. So this was, what did you actually draw this on?
That's on a piece of white deerskin. And the paints are they're hide paints. They're all traditional paints. They're earth paints that's done in the way it used to be done in the old buffalo hides, mixed with a little linseed oil and some of the last glue that's made from horses' hoofs.
But as we progress a little bit, maybe just specifically your background, your tribal background. Tell us about that.
I'm of a mixed race. I'm part Swedish, I'm part Hispanic, and I'm part Yaqui. But I grew up in the Yaqui culture.
And what part of that is still with you? What part of that is important to you in your life now?
Oh, all of it. You know, I mean, I was fortunate enough to be around a lot of elders, lots of wisdom, lots of humor, lots of real history. You know, that's, again, I was fascinated by ledger art because this was our history from our point of view. I've seen the battle hides of the Battle of Little Bighorn, and for years they said, oh, Custer was on the hill, and the Sioux and Cheyenne said, no, we wrote it down. This is how it happened. You know?
Mm-hmm. Right. And were your parents artistic? Were they musical? What
Oh, my mom was an artist. Yeah, she was a painter, and some of my family were potters and jewelers, and I learned from a lot of from uncles and from elders. You know, some of my tools have been handed down in my family for almost 100 years.
And we're going to see more art in a little bit and get into that. But I promised I was going to ask this. There's an aspect of your life here in New York City. You were a musician for a while, specifically in the Village, right?
Well, another thing I didn't ever want to do, but I left home and was on my way to New York, and took a violin with me because the guitar was too heavy. But, you know, them truck drivers will drop you off in the middle of a cornfield. So I just sit and played that violin for hours until the next truck came. But I got good. But yeah, when I got there, I ran into Nina Simone. She saw me and she asked me, she said, you just get here? And I went, yeah, you know. And she said, you know anybody here? And I went, no. She said, you got any money? And I said, I got $15. And she went, put that away. And she said, have the doorman ring you up. You're going to stay with me because you're going to die. So I actually got to stay with her for a while. And she, you know, she talk about history. She would tell me all, about playing in days where, they didn't even want her to go through the front door, but she was a big influence. I used to see her from time to time when she would come to LA, and I would come and bring her roses, and I go, and you remember me? And she goes, oh yeah, honey, I remember you,
We're looking at a picture of you making some jewelry here. Tell us what we're seeing.
Oh God, that's the biggest tool a silversmith can have is a log. And like I said, some of my tools, some of my stamping tools are like been in the family for years and years and years. And I don't know how old I was here, man. Maybe I had to be in my late 20s.
I'm thinking that, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Just quickly back to the music. You hung out with the Byrds for a while too, right?
Oh yeah, Michael Clark. I came out of bluegrass music, and all my peers, the Grateful Dead, McGuinn, they were all bluegrass musicians. So, I Um, I played with Graham Parsons when he first came in town, and and I just got tired of being on the road. It's a pretty strenuous life, And again, I never wanted to be a musician. I never wanted to be an actor. I was an artist. I just kind of stumbled into, I went down to Midland to work in the oil fields and found out why they were paying so much. Guys are missing fingers and stuff. So I went down to Lubbock and I played down with a lot of the early guys in Lubbock. And
Yeah, as I said earlier, that's where I grew up. It was Midland, Texas. That's where I'm from.
yeah.
So let's talk about all the art, all the media that you have worked in. We've seen some ledger art. We've seen some jewelry. Tell us just the big picture here
Of what?
of all the media that you worked in.
Oh yeah, I'm a jeweler. I'm a sculptor. I used to work in stone. I'm the ledger art I got into all by accident. I used to work for a lot of the museums, and I was actually in the Hague Foundation in New York, the Museum of the American Indian. And don't leave me in a museum because I'm going to go through everything you got. And I went through their paper archives, and I went, wow, what is this? And even though I'm not a Plains native, I grew up in a intertribal culture. So I grew up with a lot of Kiowa and Comanche and Cheyenne and Arapaho friends, so I know a lot about Plains culture. And I was a dancer, traditional dancer, and so I went, wow. And even people that know a lot about Native art have never seen ledger art because it was all put away in archives for years. But I paint on all the original documents. I get documents. I only have one print. I'm going to do another one, but people can get on my wife's website, gatheringtribes.com. and see some of my work.
And where does the paper, the ledger stuff come from for you?
That's a funny story. I got a friend that collects sports memorabilia, and I had to train him for about a year or two because I had to buy stuff I didn't want so he wouldn't give up on me. But he gets amazing things. I'm always broke. I can see him, his name pop up on the phone, and I go, I don't have any money. He goes, I got Sitting Bull's autograph. This picture you're seeing right now, that's an actual Lakota dictionary, probably around 1940.
Wow.
Yeah.
And where did that come from? The page?
That one, my wife had that. My wife had that dictionary, and I kind of commandeered it from her. And you see little figures above the heads. I used to see these, especially on the hide paintings. And the elder said that's how people were identified. That's her name. So I get to name everybody. That's Red Horse.
And is there a connection for you as you start to draw on it between the paper itself and the image that you draw?
Yeah, I live near Berkeley. I'm the most un-New Age guy in the whole world. But yeah, there's, usually the painting didn't go with the text because we couldn't read. But, about maybe 6 or 7 years into doing this, I realized that I was putting the painting with the actual, like I'll do a train painting on railroad stationery. I have land grants. I'm working on one now, first Catholic hymn book in the Lakota language.
And I know there's lots of collectors who come to these fairs and are looking here. So you make these for sale?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And what's the proper way to display this sort of thing? I notice most of them in the images that we have are not framed.
Well, that's because during COVID, I don't have my framing studio. So, I used to frame them and I bring them to the galleries, but a lot of the galleries are shut down now, especially in Santa Fe and Sedona. The two major big galleries I had for years are out of business now. So, and I also like to photograph them not in the glass because you get a better picture. This is an actual land grant. This is Franklin Pierce. This I don't know where. I'm trying to figure out where this is. Maybe Ohio or somewhere around there. But I like to paint on these because it says to all shall come greeting. Yeah, thanks, pal.
Thanks. And tell us what we're seeing. There's some action scenes.
He's going into battle against some people that are obviously coming to do them some harm.
Yeah.
And a lot of people sometimes they go, well, I don't like war. I don't like that. I said, they're not about that. They're about bravery.
And is this from a certain, are you depicting an actual person or time period?
No, time period. Yeah. Yeah. Usually, like I said, ledger art was done about 1850s up till, 1940 or so, and a lot of us brought it back. There was about 7 or 8 of us that did it. And now there's all kinds of ledger artists, and a lot of women are doing it now that didn't do it before, and they're wonderful. Everybody has their own style. Everybody likes mine a lot because I'm not really a trained painter. So, it's like trying to fake kids art. Most of
Yeah.
it was done in crayon,
Huh.
colored pencil. But the I paint in the Kiowa Comanche style, which was watercolor and pen and ink.
And are there specific topics and subjects that you find yourself drawn to?
Oh, all kinds of things. There's a lot of, like I said, battles, dreams, ceremonies, a lot of social things. Imagine you're on the reservation. It's you can't hunt. You can't do your ceremonies. You can't go outside of this square. Pretty boring. So a lot of stuff were social. They were about fighting over women or gossip, or I mean, it was the soap opera of the time.
Right. Let's go back to that last image. I want to ask Michael about it when you guys get a second. Um, uh, do people, yeah, let's take a look at this here.
This is a classic ledger. This is a commodities ledger. It shows like goods that were probably brought to a settlement, sacks of flour, beans, coffee. And this is 1875. This
the
is
actual paper
probably,
itself, the
yeah,
actual,
yeah. This is probably Montana, maybe.
and then the painting on top of that you did. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that's two lovers, being blessed by the eagle. The eagle flies closest to grandfather, so he's got a lot of medicine. That's why the eagle feathers have all that significance. An eagle also has a loud voice, speaks to the creator.
I'm Elliot Forrest from WQXR. We're talking to Michael Horse. You probably know him as Deputy Hawk from Twin Peaks, but he's also this grand artist and in a lot of different media, including jewelry, and we're looking at some of his ledger art today. We're going to be taking your questions a little bit later on, so make sure if you're following on YouTube or watching us on YouTube to ask your questions, and we'll try to get to as many as we can throughout the hour that we have together. Michael,
Elliot,
yeah.
Elliot, I just want to say one thing. It's interesting wherever I've found this art, wherever you repressed people culturally, or physically, this art seems to pop up. I've seen it in Manzanar, where they put the Japanese on meat wrapping paper and letterhead. The Museum of Tolerance has a whole bunch of it from the concentration camps. People that were shanghaied and had to go to sea, they would do something on a piece of board or piece of leather. The Underground Railroad. There was all kinds of this form of art.
Yeah, I mean, as you're talking about it, it seems to be a form of art of necessity.
Mm-hmm.
That it's what people find to paint on, and then the need, as art seems to always be, this need to express, this urge to create. You mentioned earlier about parts of the American Indian history that seem to not really be known to people, or just flat out wrong. What parts of it do you want people to know about?
There's too many to mention. And yeah, and I'm an old guy. A lot of us still use the word Indian. We grew up with it.
Native American.
Yeah. The kindness that we have. I used to watch these old films, and they would say, little kid, don't cry, be like the Indians. I mean, it's you show a no sense of humor. We're funny people. You show any culture without a sense of humor, they become less human, and it's kind of okay to do what you did to them, but we're extremely funny people, you know.
There's so much of these stereotypes that
Yeah.
are born out of, sadly enough, strangely enough, show business. I mean, I really, when I was younger, I thought, who was Jim Crow, and had to, did the research to find out it was a made up character. And I had the opportunity to sit down with Ozzie Davis, and he was talking about how these negative stereotypes of Native American of African Americans were created on stage, and how he wanted to go on stage and put people of culture and of kindness to replace the stereotypes that have been put there by show business. And I think the Native American experience is the same. So much of it came out of television and movies.
Yeah, a lot of bad films, and we're a diverse community also, I mean, there's a lot of similarities, and but this thing about us being violent, most of these movies, and there's the extremes. We're either extremely violent, we woke up each morning and goes, okay, who are we going to go kick the heck out of, or we're these spiritually in tune people with everything that moves. It's it's a much more complicated spectrum of who we are.
Right. Tell us a little more about the Yaqui people, the traditions.
Well, we're most of us are from Mexico, and we're desert people, and have a great sense of the place where we come from. We travel a lot too. I mean, I was born in Los Angeles, but I grew up in Arizona and down in Mexico with family, and that whole border never existed. People were going across that border for centuries. I would go across the border when I was young, and I would hear Kiowa spoken and Comanche spoken and the Scalero Apache spoken, and we traveled great distances. The Yaqui people would come all the way up into California and Nevada, and there was big trade routes.
And for those of us who are just joining us, I just want to double back to Twin Peaks a little bit. The reboot that happened, I guess you didn't hesitate at all when it came back a second time to be a part of that.
Oh, no. People would ask me, is it going to come back? And I thought maybe not. I part of its mystique is it died early, like James Dean. I think if it would have come back before 25 years, it wouldn't have had the impact. But it was so interesting. It was like no time had passed. And I thought to myself, even Kyle, I said, he's a big star. I don't know how he's going to be. And first time we saw each other after that, he came out of the woods with the dark makeup on. I go, okay, I know where this is going.
Yeah.
It was like, and he goes, Michael, I'm so glad to see you. But we're all a family. We all like each other. We were, I had to work with just tremendously talented people. There were Grace Zabriskie, so kind and so generous with her work, and so patient with me. I had to come up with 110% of what I had every day just to keep up with some of these people. And David, there's nobody like David. David is a kind, sweet man. He's and people say sometimes, oh, he's just trying to be strange. No, there isn't anything that David does that doesn't have something behind it. I may not get it all.
I was wondering, there was a lot of us who would follow the story and go, I don't know what's going on, and I wonder if anybody does.
Well, people would ask me, and I go, I don't. Robert Forster, he was supposed to be the original sheriff, and again, I love these. I've worked with a lot of these old guys, and I said, oh, sir, let me take you to dinner and tell me the stories. But 2 days of work, and he says, Michael, I don't get this. I go, you're not going to get all of it. Just close your eyes and go for the ride. But the fans are smart. I have to get on the internet sometimes and figure out what I did. It is about the bunnies, The fans are wickedly smart.
I want to get into some of the alternate universe sorcery, the certain aspects of both your art and your world. Star people. What are star people?
Oh, those are the ancient ones, you know. I mean, I've heard stories on, I've seen pictographs on Mescalero of spaceships, and you know, I mean, they're spaceships, and people with helmets on, and larger than humans, human figures and other large figures, and all kinds of stories about being visited by people from, you know, I mean, we knew that there was a big universe out there. You know, I mean, the Aztecs knew that the world was round and revolved around the sun when Europeans thought they were going to fall off the edge of the earth. You know, our sense of astronomy, and you know, it's
You mean historically, Native Americans had a belief in?
oh sure, still,
Yeah.
you know, there's still sightings and things, you know, and I think if they ever did come and wanted to see people, they would, you know, especially in the Southwest. You know, there's big legends of, you know, of seeing this guy people. You know,
There's
it's
almost,
interesting.
yeah, go ahead.
Interesting about Twin Peaks too is, and about what David does is, you know, we have Native people believe that the dream time is just as real as the wake time. That's a real universe, and that's a lot of what's behind Twin Peaks.
That's so interesting. Say a little bit more about that, and your and that from your own personal
Oh yeah.
perspective and
Oh
belief
yeah.
system.
Yeah. The dream world is, you know, is as real as, you know, as when we're awake.
What do you do with that? You wake up and you have a, in my case, it seems like only a slight memory sometimes of what I dream, what I was dreaming. But what do you do with that information?
Well, a lot of us lost it. I mean, there's so many things that interfere with that. In the old time, there wasn't, you know, I mean, there wasn't a lot of things that would get in the way of those messages. You know, we would wake up and we would know the whole entire thing. You know, it's a lot of, we're being bombarded by media, by noise, by anxieties, a lot of things, and we've lost a lot of the connection to the dream world.
And and you put that sometimes into your art?
I try.
Yeah.
You know,
Are there a couple of
I
more
get
images?
distracted just like everybody else does.
Right, right. I want to make sure we've covered all or most of the images that we had. If we've got some more, feel free to show that now. How do you describe your own spirituality right now?
You know, it's over the years, man, it just gets simpler and simpler and simpler. I'm on, you know, a lot of the elders, you know, people say, "Oh, think you were born on the back of a turtle." No, it's a parable. A lot of the elders tell me it's the big mystery. We know that something's out there. We know that something is huge. We you know, we know that we're all connected to nature. I mean, we said for years, you know, we were all related, and went, isn't that cute? Well, I'm a few chromosomes away from the snail darter. You know, we said everything's alive. And yeah, the rocks are alive. Got atoms, got molecules. You know, but my philosophy is pretty much like I'm on this big, beautiful planet that I hope survives, and I'm going for this wonderful ride. So it's we, and the second part is don't be a jerk.
I think enjoy the
You,
ride and don't be a jerk. It's a
you
good
know,
thing.
most native cultures that I've seen, and I've had a chance to be a part of all around the world, all have something to do with gratitude. And if you're a grateful person, you're less apt to be an ass, you know.
Right. Tell us what we're looking at here.
This is a check from New York, from the Union Bank, 1855. This was entitled Fast Food.
I got it.
You know, and the Buffalo gave us everything. They gave us our clothes and fed us, and you know, we didn't have any borders. Our borders are just where the hoof prints of the buffalo led us, you know.
Right. Have you hunted?
Oh yeah, my stepdad that raised me, you know, my adopted stepdad, wonderful person. He was a pretty major hunting guide for years, and that's how I learned to work horses. I mean, he would take me out of school, and I have to go hunting with him, and I'd have to have everybody Sherpa. I got to pack everything, and you know, and yeah, I don't like to hunt anymore. And people go, well, you don't want to work, you don't want to kill anything. I don't want to work that hard,
Yeah, I
but
was
I
wondering whether.
never hunted for pleasure, went outside for pleasure, but there's, I was always grateful and put prayers down for anything. And I wouldn't kill anything that I wasn't going to eat.
And this banknote, where did this come from?
This came from my friend that gets me all the papers. It's interesting. I find papers from the place my other ledger artist friends go, where do you get this? I never find it from the place they are. Like he found this Union Bank paper in California. I'll find papers from Texas and Wyoming, papers from South Dakota and Florida. They're never where you think they ought to be.
If we want to go back to the one of the tree too, we can talk. Yeah, let's. There was a
And
couple
all
of
these,
them.
a lot of these things people think I made up, but how these trees are painted and that. I just copied a lot of the old Kiowa and Comanche ones that I saw. So I mean, I was just such a fan of this art form. I would just sit and doodle them, and I would be at my art show selling my jewelry and sculpture, and people go, "What is that? Can I buy that?" And I went, "Yeah," but I've been doing it for over 40 years now.
What are we looking at now? What's the
This
paper?
is a teacher's paper from Indian Territory, 1912, and this is called "Passing Down the Wisdom."
Wow.
Our treasures are our children.
Yeah.
That's why people say, well, you're this great environmentalist. Well, we're taught to think 7 generations. What am I doing today? How will it affect my grandchildren and their grandchildren and their grandchildren? And
Why 7?
it's a sacred number.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. We're going to start taking your questions, and feel free to let me know what the people are asking. If you want to put that in the chat section, we'll get those to Michael. I've got a few more, but if you guys want to start letting me know what the people are interested in, I'm happy to entertain all of that. You mentioned to me a couple of days ago when we were chatting about sweat lodges. Is that a physical experience for you, a spiritual one, maybe both?
Oh, physical, spiritual, very, very much so. It's, you're going in there to be in touch with everything. You're going there to pray. You're going in there to feel. You're going there to let things inside of you out that you're having a hard time. You're going there to pray for other people, to pray for your family and your neighbors, and not just Native people, but human beings in general.
We've got a question coming in from an occult fan. He says he hosts a podcast called Six of Sword. He says we do art, spirituality, and healings. How does Michael feel his art maps onto sacred geometry? Does his art and his ledger work concern astrology and fate?
Fate, maybe. Astrology, no. Geometry, definitely. If you've seen my work, definitely not. But yeah, it's there's something going. I will talk to, like I said, I'm the most un-New Age guy in the whole Bay Area, but I'll sing songs and talk to these paintings, especially the train ones. I'll be painting a train, and my wife goes, "What are you doing?" And I'm making train noises. And
why trains?
Well, the trains, imagine, if you know anything about herd animals, you put anything in their way, not just a fence, but anything, it disrupts their patterns. So they put this iron road that actually changed the migration of buffalo and elk and antelope. And then from the east comes this big piece of metal that's smelling and making a terrible noise and black smoke, and people are shooting animals, not to eat them, but just to watch them die. It must have been the devil incarnate. And on the other hand, I'm a train fan. I rode a lot of the trains when I was a kid, and took some money out of the bank, go ride on the Wabash Cannonball, and rode the Orient Express. And I'm a big train fan. Yeah, this is actual paper. This is Union Pacific Railroad, late 1800s.
The paper behind it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And then, so in this case, the art and the paper very much connected.
Yeah.
I never really thought about that. I guess the railroads defined the migration, as you're saying. I never really thought about that because you just made it difficult to cross, I guess.
Oh, it must have been something to see, especially coming, especially people in the Southwest and people in the plains, knew something was coming from the East. And then, especially in the Southwest too, a lot of the trains and the Harvey Corporation stuff was a big way to sell our artwork. A lot of the artwork, the pottery and the jewelry and was made to sell to people when the trains would stop in Albuquerque. You know,
It's a
I was
beautiful piece.
asking one. I was asking my mom. I said, "Why are some of the pots? They're either really big or they're really small." She said, "Well, the big ones were seed pots, but they were told to make some of the pots that they didn't fit under the seat of the train. A lot of people wouldn't buy them."
Again, we're taking your questions. If you're watching on YouTube, feel free to ask questions to Michael in the chat section and we'll entertain them here. Lynchland wants to know where the map is from.
That was a good question. I was going to I want to make prints of that map. And
Yeah,
then they said, it's missing. Anyway, oh man, if I known it was going to be missing, I'd have stole it.
yeah.
They were watching me the second time we filmed because I'll take anything that isn't nailed down, man. But they finally found it. They've got it somewhere. So we're hoping to make I would like to see for the fans, I'd like to see a print made out of it.
Oh, it's been discovered. They know where it is.
Yeah, they know where it is now. Yeah.
Sweet. We've got some more Twin Peak fans here. Let me just see here. Twin Peaks highlights the duality of human nature and our search to comprehend that duality. Laura herself, White and Black Lodge. Are there similar themes in the Native American lore and culture?
Well, of course, there's those themes in just about every culture, and the Black Lodge exists. It's a place in Plains mythology, and it's and so those weren't really made up. Those were actually taken from Native culture.
Becca wants to know, what was your favorite element of real Native American folklore that made it into Twin Peaks, and what aspect do you think could have been improved?
It can always be improved, but you don't have, it's not really about Native culture. It's about Twin Peaks. But I think they were pretty accurate. And the Hawk was an amazing character because he was both a spiritually grounded person, and he was, when I got to talk about my girlfriend from Brandeis, we did away with some stereotypes, held some mirrors up to them,
Which one
and
specifically?
oh, I can't put my finger on it now, but we would actually kind of make fun of some of them, and then we showed some, it was a contemporary Native person.
Right, right, and with hopes and dreams and aspirations and foibles.
Yeah.
Brian showed the book of the Dweller on the Threshold. What is that exactly?
I have no idea. I was going to ask Brian about it. I don't know.
He'll join us in a little bit. Maybe he can explain that.
Yeah.
Where are we today, Michael? We see many of the Native Americans standing up and doing protests for different parts of land and different parts where the government wants to put their foot in, where it really is Native territory. Where are you hopeful? Where are we standing today with the way the general public and politics? What are your thoughts these days on that?
Oh, I'm extremely hopeful. I'm hopeful in general for all the youth. I would go to some protests with my wife and I'd go, well, this is great, but there's nobody here under 50 years old. Where's the kids, And she said, well, they get on the internet. I said, no, they got to get the bodies out. And they woke all these kids up. But Standing Rock was it was a beacon for people all over the world, and it's really funny. Up in the Dakotas, sometimes I have to explain people, they go, well, geez, Mount Rushmore is so magnificent. I said, well, it's a holy place to the Lakota people. You steal the holy place and then you carve the four faces of the guys that stole the face into the, and sometimes they just don't get it, and building the telescope on Mauna Kea. People go, well, that's for everybody. No, that's a holy place for the Hawaiians. Some things are just belong to those people.
Do you see Rushmore and actually physically have pain? Is it a painful experience?
Yeah. And then people say, well, they're doing Crazy Horse. No, the Native people didn't ask him to do that. He didn't even want his picture taken. No, it's, and again, it's not just, we were all people that lived upon the earth at one time. It's not just, just we have this great consciousness, we just have a lot of the original instructions that we were given, And yeah, I drive a car and I watch television and all that stuff, but it's a value system. It's if we don't wake up and value Mother Earth, we're going to be a footnote in history.
And I know this is probably weird, but the casinos have been a part of the at least American aspect of the Native American life. Has that been a net positive for the people?
It is and isn't. I would like to see something else take the place of that, but it's enabled Native people to send some of their kids to school, to buy some of their own artifacts back that have been in museums, to buy land back. And it, it's gambling. It's got its greed to it. It's kept a lot of people, some people were being thrown off their tribal roles that were on there for years out of greed. And, but it's also paid a lot of legal bills. They were going to shut it down in New Mexico one time. And the governor of the Pueblo said, well, that main road that goes through the Pueblo, it's closed. And the governor states that you can't do that. And he says, that's not what my high priced lawyer said,
And were you a part of this effort to stop the development in the Grand Canyon too?
Well, I'm getting old. I don't travel like but yeah, I'm aware of all this. I'm kind of stepping back and letting the younger people do it. I try and back them as much as I can. Sometimes I'm my wife and I go, we got to get in the car. We got to go do this.
Yeah.
My wife is fearless, man. She's been out on the front lines many, many times, and so have I. I've risked my freedom several times. I was up in the, when they had the salmon wars in Point Conception. And
when you say risk your freedom, what do you mean?
Well, go to jail.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Stephen Romano's got a question for you here. One of the most emotionally provocative scenes in The Return on Twin Peaks is one with you talking with Catherine, the log lady. Talk about your connection with her.
We were friends. We were real friends. And, when they asked me to do that and everybody said, well, how come you didn't cry? I said, I didn't want to, I wanted to show how brave she was. But what an honor. What an honor to, she was an amazing, amazing person. Both her and Jack. One of my favorite, for the fans, one of my favorite things is before I even got into the movies, like I said, my landlord was an agent and she handled Jack. And I got him by one day and I said, Jack, I'm a pretty out there guy. What the heck did Eraserhead mean? So I have a picture of him, said, figure it out yet, love Jack. Everything made sense through Jack's eyes. Me and Everett, Big Ed, I go, do you get this? No, let's go ask Jack. And Jack could explain it. And we'd walk away going, oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think anybody knows.
But there's nobody like David. I thought when we were doing the remake, I said, oh, this won't be a big deal. There's so many out of the box things. And 2 days working with David, I said, oh, I'm sorry, pal. There's just nobody like him,
Yeah, he's been so important.
He's truly an artist. People use the word genius and that. I don't know, but David's an artist. Everybody likes to make money, do things for money, but art is in David's soul.
Yeah. We've got a question here from Carol. You mentioned sculpture. Your medium? What do you sculpt?
Stone.
Out of
alabaster,
stone.
Marble. Yeah. I don't do it anymore because it's very messy.
So we've got another question here. David Lynch's intuition and the way he would channel the people in the show into his work.
Oh, it's, I consider myself, a paint on David's palette.
Right.
I mean,
How
there's
much was
never.
you and how much was this character he was created, sort of melded together?
Oh yeah, talk about instincts. I mean, you just makes total sense. Sometimes David will adjust things. There's words he'll go, no, could you say it like this? And you just do it because it's usually the right thing to do.
Is there more acting in your future?
Yeah, I hope so. After everything's over, I just did a season of Claws, which again, my career is an experiment, bizarre booking. My agent calls it, they want you to be on this show about a nail salon and the mob. And I went, huh?
What?
And you better see, it's very funny. Again, wickedly talented. Niecy Nash and all these Harold Perneau, and it was just wonderful. But I had the worst clothes I ever had my entire life. I'd show up and they go, that's my yellow pullover sweater and checkered pants. I went, yeah. But it was fun to do, and I got to be in New Orleans. I have a great love for New Orleans.
Yeah.
But
great.
yeah, there's a lot of things in the works.
We have a question here about from Alexandra, the inspiration for your art, especially maybe the ledger art. Does it start with the paper? Do you have an idea? Talk about your inspiration.
It used to be just come from what I wanted to paint, but it comes from the paper now. I've had papers for 6-7 years that I don't paint on until it comes to me one day. Just like making jewelry, I'll have a stone sitting on my desk for 10 years before I decide I'm going to make something out of it. I'm not real prolific. I'm pretty slow. Like even on our website, probably most of the paintings are already sold, but now that, the quarantine I was talking, David and I are very similar. We're both painters. So we miss making films and we miss seeing a lot of the people, but it's also a very peaceful time to just sit back and do art.
Right. This entire COVID experience has been horrible for so many people. And some people have called it a little bit of a mixed blessing, and that people have turned internally. And I think that, there's going to be an explosion of art. I know a lot of writers who are doing a lot of writing right now. So maybe there's a bit of a bright side that will come out of this.
Oh, there's going to be a lot of stuff come out of this.
Yeah. Katie commented on my comment about Art of Necessity, says she liked that. She's also talking about Art of Rebellion, especially seeing the canvases used for your ledger art. Is there a sense of rebellion when you put pen to paper?
Oh yeah. I'll paint on dollar bills. Like I said, I like a lot of the land grants. I'll paint on copies of the Constitution. There's some social things that coming behind it. Yeah. This one here, this is interesting. This is Carlisle Indian School. If a lot of people don't know about the Indian boarding schools, they came and they just took our children back in the 1900s. And first thing they would do is cut your hair, is what happens when you're in mourning, which is not a good sign. And your name would no longer be Little Bear. Your name would be John, or, and they just tried to deprogram everything that was native, and it didn't work. We're still here, but it was a horrendous experience. But this is a pretty rare paper. Like I said, this is the same 1910. This is when Jim Thorpe went to Carlisle Indian School.
This is really provocative right now. You've got, this is just my own interpretation, but you've got these seemingly young people who are being pulled.
Well, this is the family sending their kids off. That's Little Bear going in and Little Bear coming out.
Yeah.
Very, very sad. Very, 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 very hard times for Indigenous people.
Right.
Some of the boarding schools in the older days were not so bad. A lot of my artist friends say, yeah, it was kind of, back in the 50s, it was okay to actually, get an education, but it was really, really, they were very brutal to these children. And then sometimes the children would go back to the tribe and the tribe would go, we don't recognize you anymore. And, you know, so there's a lot of suicide.
In this picture, you've got some things above both the about almost everyone's heads. Talk about that.
That's their name. Is the chief is named Holy Pipe. And like I said, the young man is Little Bear, and that's Little Bear when he's going in his traditional clothing, and that's him after they've cut his hair and what they're trying to push on him and
I see.
deprogram
So
him.
the two middle people are the same, or one
They're
person.
the same, yeah, they're the same
I
person.
see. Right. And I noticed a similarity here too between what comes out of the guns and what comes out of people's mouths. Is the same imagery for you?
Yeah, and that's something, you know, that I saw in a lot of the old Kiowa Comanche ones that I basically copied.
So many of the things we're seeing here this afternoon of this work is inspired in the way you do this. For how far back?
How far back did the originals go?
Yeah, the things that you're talking about that you borrowed or that you're using these imagery.
Late 1850.
Yeah.
Mostly reservation period. You know,
Are
it's
there
interesting.
certain? Yeah, go ahead.
The two biggest collections of ledger art are the War Department. A lot of them were battle trophies that were taken, and the Department of Corrections, because the reservations were under the Department of Corrections before the Department of the Interior. So they have a huge collection, and a lot of this there was at one time especially after the Battle of Little Bighorn, they basically rounded everybody that they could find and put them on trains and took them to Fort Marion in Florida, which is horrendous. Again, put you on trains like cattle and put you in the most foreign place that you could possibly imagine, you know. And they were sitting around, and there was a woman, I forgot her name, but she saw a very famous ledger artist, Kiowa, named guy, I forget what his name was, and she brought some pencils and papers for him to make more. So there's a lot of pictures that he painted, things that they had never seen before, circuses that came to entertain the guards, ships, alligators, whales.
Wow.
And then
And
then the old days, you know.
has there been a public exhibition of both either your work or some of the older ledger art that you're talking about?
Oh yeah, it's starting to pop up. It's very popular now. There was a big the drawing company, which a lot of people that probably are collectors of antique papers, you know, they did a big show in Wisconsin. There was about 300 and some of these ledger arts, and most of them, like I said, were from the Department of Corrections.
Do you make pieces that are sometimes just a flat out gift, or is pretty much everything you do for other people to be sold? Yeah, there are things that sometimes you just do just for yourself.
Oh yeah, and very funny ones. You know, one time I used to, when I wanted to show in Santa Fe, there was Little Beaver and what was it, Little Beaver and something else, and they would have their stand where they would have poodle on a stick at a little barbecue, and you know.
Yeah.
In
the modern imagery as well.
Yeah.
Jessica's asking about commenting earlier about that location can be a character, as you said. How do you explore that in your ledger art?
I go to that place. Like I said, again, I'm the most new age guy where I live, but I go to that place when and a lot of times the text will bring me there, you know. I wonder, and it's interesting too, history wise, you know, I'll go, well, what was happening at this time? Like I was painting on something from the same time as the Battle of Little Bighorn, and I realized in the East, Civil War was over for 4 years. The Brooklyn Bridge had been built. First baseball game between Kansas City and Missouri, Edison was showing the first light bulb when the Sioux and Cheyenne made their last stand. People don't put that culture shock together.
Right. We may got time for one more from the audience from YouTube. If you've got one more question in the chat section here, I'm curious what you're working on right now, Michael.
I'm doing a lot of ledger paintings, and making jewelry again. I haven't made any jewelry for a while, and I'm back. It's my favorite thing to do. People ask me of all the things I do, movies and all that stuff. It's to make jewelry and to paint. I cut all my own stones, and there's just nothing like it. In the art, it doesn't matter what you look like or who the art stands alone. I will always consider myself an artist.
Well, that's a great place to stop, Michael. It has been my honor to spend some time with you today. I
Well,
loved
thank you
seeing
so
your
much.
art here. There's something extremely soulful and beautiful about the work that you do and about your spirit. And it's been fun to hang out with you.
And I wish I was as cool as the Hawk. People go, "Aren't you as cool as the Hawk?" And nobody's cool as the Hawk.
Brian, back to you.
All right, guys. Thank you so much, Elliot, and thank you, Michael. It was an amazing hour, and I'm sure everybody who was watching would have enjoyed for it to go on much, much longer. But again, we want to thank you, both you guys, and for everybody for tuning in. And we want to redirect everybody now back to the virtual fair, which is at brooklynbookfair.com. And the fair will be open for some hours more today. I'm not exactly sure of the schedule, but I think it's open for a while longer. And then we're back again tomorrow, and we have 3 more talks. The first one is going to be about mysticism in art. The second one is going to be about a defunct theme park in Los Angeles that Michael may have gone to, called Pacific Ocean Park.
Oh, POP.
Yeah.
POP.
And then we're going to finish out tomorrow with a history of sideshow banners. So it's going to be a really exciting
Wow.
end of the fair. And I did want to just remind people again that we're also going to have a short time that the fair will be open on Monday. So we started out with 3,000 objects. A lot have been sold, but there's going to be 600 additional objects that get loaded up just for Monday for the special part of the fair. And there's a lot of stuff that dovetails with the topics that we've talked about with Michael and with a lot of with all the speakers today. That's really where my inspiration came from. Is seeing what the dealers are offering and seeing what's going on the ground in Brooklyn and with younger collectors. So hope everybody enjoyed it. And
don't forget, if you want to see my work, at gatheringtribes.com. Lots of wonderful native jewelry and paintings and other things.
I'm going there right now.
Sorry, Michael, are any for sale right now?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Because I know you mentioned that there wasn't much, that quite a lot was pre-sold.
Well, there's still some on there, and there'll be a lot more coming very, very soon.
Okay, great. Thank you, guys. Thanks, everybody, and we will see you tomorrow.
Take care.
All right.